Today, we're looking at a green ink from Sailor, Tears of the Clown. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. As always, there's timestamps down below in the description, so if you're in a hurry, you can skip around. But if you got the time, I would appreciate you checking out the entire video. You can also follow me over on Instagram, and if you're new here and like fountain pen ink reviews, I would invite you to subscribe. In order to make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I then put the ink into this Retro 51 Tornado with a broad nib to write for a day and to take my notes for this video. In order to have some standardization in my writing samples, I always use Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. Now, let's look at the writing sample. I picked this ink up in sample form, which comes in a vial like this. To keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at the Clairfontaine. We get no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, some very nice amounts of shading going on here. Very, very nice. I really like how that looks with the stub. Just look at the darks and lights just as they're moving through the letters. Wow. The extra fine is a bit lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen. It does offer some nice shading throughout, not as stark as what we see with the stub, but it's still very much there. You really do see those dark spots come to life. 9 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine, with no feather spread, halo sheen, and still some very nice shading. Like look at the X in Fox, K in Quick. The word the has a lot of great shading within it. 15 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show tons of color variation. It's not as stand out as in the writing, but it's definitely there. Tomoe River. No bleeding, light Tomoe River ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and has amazing, amazing shading. The extra fine is quite a bit lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen. The shading is not coming through here. The medium is the same 19 seconds to dry. The medium is the same tone as the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen. Still not really getting the shading here. 26 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us not a lot of shading, and we really don't get it. So how about Rhodia? No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and it has very nice shading. Not any problems here. Almost as good as what we were seeing with the Clairfontaine. The extra fine is lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, still some very nice shading. The K in Quick is darker, the BR in Brown is darker, it works its way light, dark to N. Fox goes light to dark, nice, and 11 seconds to dry. Now the medium is the same tone as the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, and some very nice shading. Look at Brown starting as a mid-tone getting darker. Quick starts dark, goes light, goes dark at the K. And 16 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby for both, left to right, do show us some good color variation, and we do get some in the writing. I agree with Vita that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately put it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And it looks like it wants to hold on immediately, but it's being pushed away because we see a top and a bottom line of where that first line was actually put down. Now it pushes its way up and it's just a green. There's no mixing here. The one on the right I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. And this is a very permanent ink looking at that because it did not budge after 10 minutes. Resistance tests are done to see how well this ink can be expected to perform on the page and how hard it may be to clean from your pen. I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, I feel confident using this in a note-taking situation because that ink did not budge, not one bit. Great. Now the thing is, water didn't budge it at all. Pen flush barely budged it. If you look at the pen flush, you see it's barely moving it. And the 1/3 bleach solution did nothing to it. Now I didn't have any issues getting this out of my pen. Another example of where sometimes what's going on in a resistance test isn't 100% of what's actually going on to clean the ink out of the pen. It was much easier than what we see on this paper. I test ink viscosity with a tilt test that I'll link somewhere. Now for the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Sailor's Tears of the Clown has a viscosity of 2.5, making it not just normal, but average. To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples done on Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. I average all 6 of those numbers. Now, for the inks I've tested, I found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Sailor's Tears of the Clown has an average dry time of 16 seconds, making it normal. Instead of finding inks that look like Sailor's Tears of the Clown, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. And how do you not put it with a purple when it's called Tears of the Clown and it makes you think of the Joker? So I chose Diamine's Majestic Purple. The second writing sample was done on Life, Levenger, and Franklin Christoph paper. Here we're looking at Life paper. Now, Life paper has no bleeding and no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and the shading looks amazing, as it has frequently with the stub. The extra fine is lighter than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen. The shading is very nice here. Look at the word the, how it's got the lights to darks to lights to darks, back and forth, constantly. Gorgeous. 9 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine, with no feather spread, halo sheen, and the same great shading we're getting with the extra fine. 15 seconds to dry. I think the camera is having some issues with this particular tone of green, and I'm hoping it really gets cleaned up in post. Now the scrubby for both show plenty of color variation, and we get plenty. Levenger. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 is no feather spread, halo sheen, and I didn't get any shade here on the Levenger paper. The extra fine is quite a bit lighter than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen. The shading did come back. Brown goes from dark to light to dark. Quick goes from a mid-tone to light to dark, so it's all there. 7 seconds to dry. Medium is a little darker than the extra fine, not quite as dark as the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, and some very nice shading. Quick goes dark to light to dark. Brown goes dark down to light. It's beautiful the whole way through. 11 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show plenty of color variation, and we got it up here. Last, Franklin Christoph. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 is no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. Now the extra fine, quite a bit lighter than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen. The shade's really not coming through. 5 seconds to dry. To more absorbent paper. Medium is darker than the extra fine, but not quite as dark as the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. 7 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both show us no real color variation, and we didn't get it here. And that's all that I have for the writing sample. So what do I think of Sailor Tears of the Clown? Here's a green that is, again, much too light. It reminds me of kind of a highlighter ink in its brightness that I don't know about reading an entire page of this. Although its permanence is a standout quality that might make you reconsider it depending on what other colors you're putting down on the page. I'd use this as a compliment primarily. So what nib and pen is going to give the best writing experience? While there's a lot of shading to be gained from just about every pen that you use, I found that a wet stub put down enough ink to be readable and to really bring out the shading. I put out a new ink review every single day, so that if you're not already subscribed, I'm going to remind you, go ahead and subscribe. Thanks for watching.